Is it hard?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. It's simple, not easy.
It's simple. It's simple. It's basic. You're really eating dead food, and the body wants real nutrition, food that it recognizes. And
the chemicals are creating addictive habits.
Addictive habits.
100%.
So much of what we eat and we do is subconscious.
Yeah.
Where we're just hand to mouth doing what we normally do. So protein bars.
Sure.
They may have a certain amount of nutrition. They're almost always processed with a seed oil. Something nourishing, we know what it is, and the cravings come and you put it away. And in order to get it to the way it looks when it's on the shelf, it's extracted at high heat, which makes it automatically rancid. It typically turns black, so they bleach it, they deodorize it, and they are doing all this with chemical solvents, and then they put it into a plastic container, and then they give it to you.
So welcome back, Deborah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I always love talking to you, and you bring lunch. It's amazing from your restaurant. And my favorite, I was telling them back there over lunch that I wait all summer for that coconut curry carrot soup, and I get it a lot. I've gotten in the habit now of on Sundays ordering, door dashing 3 of your bone broths and 1 or 2 of the coconut curry soups. And then I pour it in glass jars, and then I just sip on it all week. It's my favorite thing. I'm going to be sad when it goes away.
We'll keep it for a long time.
That'd be great.
I'll make it for you when it's off menu.
It's so good, and it's so good for you, which is a great lead in. The thing I wanted to talk to you about today, you're obviously, you have a local restaurant here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Colleyville, North Richland Hills, that is just a hit, and I'm so proud of you. I know we talked last year about this time because, people are wanting to make healthier choices, and I think last year we talked a little bit about what choices can I make when I'm preparing meals for the holiday, things like that.
Yeah.
But I love, your insights because you really are a pioneer in our area in Texas. Most restaurants like what you have kind of exist in Austin and some of the, a little different places. We got a lot of steakhouses here in DFW, which you serve some amazing steak and amazing beef. But I just love the concept. And so it's fun to talk to you about it. And if anybody wants to know your story and how you got there, they can go listen to the past episode. But just suffice it to say that I've just been so proud because I've been coming to your restaurant since you first opened, which are you coming up on 2 years, or has it been 2 years yet?
Or a year and a half.
Year and a half. It's not very long.
No,
and just when I go in, it just makes my heart so happy. As a fellow entrepreneur as well, of course, and because I want you to be successful because selfishly I want your food. But just to see it so busy and packed and there's a line and it's just great. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You're doing something right.
Feels good.
And it's an amazing time to have a business like yours and health and our food choices being at the forefront of the conversation because it's trendy right now with Maha, right? And I hope it sticks. I think it will because we're doing a lot of work there. But what I want to talk about with you this time being, the top of the year is, I AI'd what's the most common New Year's resolution around food besides losing weight?
Right.
And the answer was the most common New Year's resolution is changing some sort of eating pattern, whether it's I'm going to give up processed foods, I'm going to give up sugar, I'm going to eat more whole foods, all those things, which are all amazing. So, I kind of want to just talk a little bit about that because what seems to happen, and I should have AI'd this question, is how long do people usually stick to those goals?
Yeah.
And why can't something like that stick? And I think it's just in talking to a lot of people that, it's hard, or it's this, or it's that, or it's expensive, and, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just dive into that conversation. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
So let's tackle all of those. Is it hard?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. It's simple, not easy.
It's simple. It's simple. It's basic. the thought that food is so foundational, I really feel like everything starts there. But you also
100%.
don't have to do everything at once.
Right.
So you start wherever you're at, and what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for everyone. So baby steps. And then we can talk about it being expensive, because that's something that we are always in conversation about with the work that we do. But so I would say the first thing is looking at whole foods. So wherever your diet is at, however you feed yourself, really dialing things back to macros and looking at whole foods. So your proteins, your fats, dairy, vegetable, and trying to get as much processed food out of the equation.
Right.
So that's things that are in bags or in boxes. And when I talk to friends, I'm like, listen, just try to shop the perimeter. Let's say you can't go to the farmer's market to get your beef. Go to your market and look for the best quality beef that you can buy. But that doesn't necessarily mean to start that it all has to be regenerative beef that is
grass-fed, grass-finished.
Because you don't have access to that.
Right.
But can you buy really beautiful, the best proteins that you can buy, prepare as much as you possibly can at home, prepare things in batches, avoid the interior aisles, because that's where all the processed food is going to live. So
some people would argue, though, grains and beans and lentils, and you could go down that aisle.
You can go down that aisle for sure, but try to avoid as much of the, prepared, anything that's going to live in a box or a bag. And for me, that also includes things like protein bars.
Sure.
Like they may have a certain amount of nutrition. They're almost always processed with a seed oil that allows them to be preserved for that long. But you're really eating dead food, and the body wants real nutrition, food that it recognizes and that can be assimilated into the body for the energy and the metabolic function that you ultimately need. So if you just kind of dial it back and then start throughout your day, start your mornings, I think, with as much protein as you can possibly do.
That's right.
It's a great way, especially for women. We need protein, and I think we need way more protein than most dietary recommendations are going to advise.
Hey, the new dietary recommendations are coming out in a couple of weeks, and I'm anxiously waiting what they're going to say. They're flipping apparently our current pyramid on its head, which it really should be. It'll be interesting to see what it says. I think all they're going to do is just add no processed foods and things like that. But we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm hopeful.
We'll see. And also,
at least people are talking about it.
People are talking about it, and change comes in baby steps.
Right.
So whether it's on a legislative federal level or just in your personal life, like I think if you try to take everything out of the equation and flip it completely on its head, it's overwhelming, and most people are not going to succeed. So if you do baby steps where you start with whole foods, do that first. Do as much meal prep. Like you can meal prep on a Sunday or a Monday, and then look at what you can hold. A lot of things that you can prep, you can freeze. You can buy, at the restaurant, we use quarts, pints, and 8-ounce containers. So you can get those on Amazon. Granted, we want to not put as much in plastic as possible, but let's be realistic about what we can do. And then freeze. So if you made bone broth, right, you need to put it into a crock pot or a huge stock and make enough for a week or two. Then you prep it, put it into containers, freeze it, pull it out as you need it. So you're not overwhelmed with this sense of I have to make dinner. It's going to be too hard. I'm just going to order DoorDash and call it a day.
Right.
So set yourself up for success. Start with the macros, start with whole foods. Then I would say, in tandem with that, is really look at seed oils. So if you have seed oils in your house, you want to slowly, or maybe as quickly as possible, transition into real fats. So butter, olive oil, beef tallow.
That's my favorite.
My favorite too.
Duck fats too, another great one that I love.
So good for you, and also so much flavor. And what's fascinating about learning a lot about saturated fats and natural ancient fats is that they're incredibly nourishing to the body.
Absolutely.
And we have been conditioned
since the 80s.
Or even before, for a whole host of reasons that we won't necessarily go into today, but to think the opposite. And we've really been fed false information.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. And the body not only recognizes it and it's nourishing for the brain, it's nourishing for your cells, but it satiates your hunger.
Yep.
So when you're not getting the fats, you're sort of constantly cycling in, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry.
Right.
And the fats and the proteins will take care of the hunger really quickly, and it'll hold you.
100%. And there's, I just came back from, just came back. I was at a MAHA summit in DC, and one of the things there's so much exciting things that just gave me hope for the health of our country. But they talked about saturated fats. And one of the things that they were talking about was just getting, and this is, big decision makers, RFK Jr. and, Oz is a big part of that. And just some different key thought leaders of quit bastardizing saturated fats, changing the narrative. I mean, there's a lot of really exciting shifts in mindset that we're recognizing. What we used to, it's been all dogma, and changing that narrative to truth. And I think that was the biggest thing that was so refreshing to me was just understanding that we're finally at a point where we're going to start telling the truth about our food and what's what. Another big thing that they were talking about, which I love, and there was one panel that was talking about processed foods. You brought up processed foods, and there's some that are cleaner than others. There's some companies that are cleaner than others that make it a point, no seed oils and is simple ingredients and things like that. But if you can avoid it, I mean, I get it. We're in a hurry. Sometimes we just need to grab a quick something out of our, out of our bag or whatever. But one of the things they were talking about that was really exciting is the states that have adopted the practice, and Texas is one of them, of warning labels on processed food packages that have a lot of chemicals and high fructose corn syrup and all the things that are creating inflammation.
Right.
Because there's a big argument, and it's rightly so, that, we're a capitalist society, and you've got companies that are making junk, and you got people that want the junk. Okay, well, if you want the junk, at least we need to put a warning label on it, much like we do with alcohol and pregnancy and, the smoking warning labels. So that was pretty cool. I wish that was going to be a federal thing, but it's right now a state thing. But another thing that was really exciting to me to hear is that, all of the companies that have committed to, because of the pressure that the general MAHA movement is putting on them, to getting rid of dyes and chemicals out of their foods. And it's kind of like you look at what's happening, and they know it's bad for you.
Oh, yeah.
They've ignored the science, but now because consumers are demanding it, aka money, they're decided they're going to shift it because they're being called out, which,
right.
Okay, however we got here, we got here. But I just think of all the kids that are overweight and have diabetes that wouldn't have otherwise, that are addicted because they create these foods to be very addictive.
Yep.
And one of the things they said that why, because one person asked, well, why are the food dyes such an important, there's so many other things that can hurt us besides the food dyes. And they said, well, number one, for kids, they put a lot of food dyes in a lot of these foods to market to kids because it's bright, it's colorful, and then the kids want it and the parents buy it, but it's not just the food dyes, it's all of the other process, the chemicals and the processing of the non-food that's in there. And it is obviously just created so much disease in the country. So I love what you're saying of the first thing when people are going on this, what can I do to be healthier, is get rid of anything that you can, if as much as possible, open from a package. I tell patients, if you can't pick it, pull it, or kill it, you probably shouldn't eat it, and not pulling it off the shelf either.
Yeah. And there's the experiments where you take real food versus processed food, leave it in a cabinet for a week. Yeah. And
they did this with the McDonald's hamburgers.
Yes. Well, I mean, they do it with a lot of fast food. Also, there are experiments where they'll put margarine next to butter and put it outside. The butter will be covered with ants. Nothing is going to touch the margarine.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And that tells you a lot. And, beyond, each packaged food has chemicals, dyes, potentially all sorts of emulsifiers, different preservatives.
Seed oils, of course, too.
Seed oils.
Very inflammatory.
All of them are inflammatory, and who really knows how the body processes it?
Right.
And it stays in your system for a very long time.
Well, and that was a big thing real quick they talked about, is all these petroleum-based chemicals and even seed oils that are processed with petroleum-based products.
Right.
And how inflammatory they are.
Right. Well, the birth of seed oils, whether you're looking at soybean or canola, there's a whole category of seed oils. They're really industrial oils.
Correct.
That were then converted for public use. So they've been
by the food industry.
Yeah, by the food industry. And in order to get it to the way it looks when it's on the shelf, it's extracted at high heat, which makes it automatically rancid. It typically turns black, so they bleach it. They deodorize it. And they are doing all this with chemical solvents. And then they put it into a plastic container and then they give it to you. So you're basically consuming, whether you're cooking with it or it's been processed into your cakes, your snacks, your cookies, your crackers. And sometimes those are actually hydrogenated.
Yes.
So,
which is even worse.
Which is even worse. Yep. So, and that's like a whole trans fat conversation.
So using full fat butter and anybody that says, well, beef tallow is too expensive, I'm going to say no to that because I get a giant canister that looks like the old Crisco canisters of beef tallow, like Chicago something brand.
Yep.
And on Amazon, and it's like $29. And it lasts for months. It lasts for a long time.
It lasts for a very long time. It's super stable, right? So you can hold it. And then also you can render your own beef tallow. So the way that our moms, and actually we do, when I cook bacon, we're rendering off the bacon fat. Save that same thing. If you...
we used to pour it in the coffee can. Just sat on our stove. And
there it is.
Growing up.
You can do the same thing if you buy beef and let's say, you're trimming it. And that's not a bad thing to do, is buy really beautiful a cut of beef, trim it, and then save your trimmings, and you reduce those down. So you're really just going to cook it down so that you pull the fat off and it gets into a liquid form. Then save the proteins off. You can feed those to your dog or your animals. And then you've rendered your own beef tallow. So
just pour it in a glass jar and
pour it in a glass jar.
Cabinet.
Yeah, put it in the cabinet and we keep ours in the walk-in, and then we're pulling that. We're adding that to refried beans. You can add it to your vegetables. There's a lot. You can cook your eggs with it. It's going to give everything flavor, but you're also going to get, the real fat, the real nutrition, the amino acids that you get off of those particular ancient fats.
They're so good for you.
So good for you.
And they're missing. And it's one of the biggest things that we see now that's contributed to the cardiovascular disease epidemic was when we started bastardizing these fats and butters and everything in the 80s. Coincidentally coincided with when statins came on market, of course.
Right.
And we started bastardizing those and people moved away. Well, what did they replace it with? Margarine, seed oils. And we have watched cardiovascular disease rates and mortality climb along with other metabolic diseases.
Right.
And you can't ignore the data.
Like you can't ignore the data. And what I also would challenge people is that, go for a certain amount of time seed oil free.
Yeah. And you'll feel better.
You will feel better. It is a total game changer.
Just try it.
Just try it. I've been seed oil free for years now, and that's why we do the restaurant. We cook at the restaurant the way that we do, and I could never go back. Yeah. Not only from a restaurant perspective, but personally, if I ever I accidentally sort of consume seed oil, so let's say I go to a restaurant and I'm trying something with a group of friends, I will feel it immediately. Before I've left the restaurant, I start to feel ill. And it's not a situation where, I have to leave, but I feel the inflammation. My whole body gets hot. I get a headache. I start to feel nauseous. Like I get flu-like symptoms.
Yeah, it's because you've reintroduced a toxin to your body that you've detoxified from for years. Well, you bring up a good point. So how do we recommend... You're a restaurateur, you go out, you're social. How can people that are trying to make these choices in the new year, and they're social things, like we don't just become hermits and avoid, because we think we're going to die if we accidentally get something. So how can people go out to a restaurant and make choices that are, because not every state and not every city is friendly to this conversation. And what's further is a lot of people are saying seed oil free, but it's really not.
Right.
It's a blended tallow with seed oil. Oh, we use beef tallow and it's blended with, other oils. But what kind of choices can people make at restaurants or questions can they ask?
So I would say you have to be your own best advocate. So first of all, research the restaurants that are going to have the values and the food processing or the type of food that you're looking for. And there are ways to do that. Seed Oil Scout, we've talked before.
Seed Oil Scout is an app. Yeah,
it's an app, and it will direct you to what's within your area, wherever you are on the globe. And then also everyone is verified. So we're 100% verified. It's a very rigorous process.
Is that another app? Everyone?
No.
Okay.
No.
Everyone on Seed Oil.
Everyone, if you're on Seed Oil,
Seed Oil Scout.
Seed Oil Scout is a restaurant, you've been verified, and they're gradients to it. So it's like from 1 to 5, but you go through a rigorous process as a restaurant to get your rating. And so, you could say you're seed oil free, and let's say you're using olive oil in your vinaigrettes, but you're actually you're deep frying with canola. So they separate all of that out for us.
Interesting.
We're 100% seed oil free. It's in nothing. We make our own mayo. We make our own ricotta. I don't even have a deep fryer. Everything is like very rigid. So I would say start there. Then when you go to a restaurant, like, don't be afraid necessarily to go to a restaurant that isn't in that category. But when you walk in and you sit down and you talk to your waiter, tell them your goals. And can you make whatever you're looking for? Can I have this made with butter? Could we have it made with olive oil? Then be smart. If it's fried, you're probably not going to want to get it.
Yeah.
Because if they're using a deep fryer, unless they're specifically seed oil free and they're using beef tallow, it is 99.999% of the time going to be in soybean oil or canola.
Right.
So that's all of your tempuras, your French fries. Imagine wherever you're going, if there's anything that's crispy, it's been dropped into a deep fryer.
Unless it's a real French restaurant that are cooking their fries in duck fat, which is the right way to make French fries. And ask them, because not all French restaurants do.
No, and I would say
Majority don't.
In the States, very unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, and the reason why is that seed oils are cheap.
Yeah.
And they're neutral. Right. So duck fat is probably one of the most expensive fats that you could utilize.
Makes sense.
So, like, let's say they're finishing a baby potato in duck fat, that's probably being done in a cast iron, and they're spooning in the duck fat. Like, that's what we do when we do beef tallow at our restaurant, or we make like a miso butter. So ask your waiter, ask them, gently and kindly, like, you want to do everything with love and with flow.
Yes.
And if you are feeling uncomfortable that isn't going to be executed the way that you want, then order in a way that is navigating around that.
Yeah.
So look for things that are grilled. Look for fish.
Get your salad dressing on the side and use olive oil and vinegar.
And ask them for olive oil and vinegar. Be wary of things like mayo, because unless they're making their own mayo, that's most likely been bought commercially. That's always folded in with a seed oil, most likely canola. Avoid fried foods. And then ask them to prepare it in the way that you would like it to be prepared. Also, breads can have seed oils in them. So again, it's very difficult initially to eliminate everything. So I always say, just like, start in baby steps, and then you slowly will start to domino and you start adding more things. And then let's say you were going to a friend's house or a big family gathering. So my strategy is I often will eat beforehand so that I'm not walking in there ravenous.
Right. That's a great strategy, yeah.
Right. So then you're making more educated decisions. Then you can carry, I will carry little packages of cheese, little packages of nuts, things in my bag that if I'm frantic that I need to keep me satisfied. And then if you're going to a family event, bring your own dish. Right?
To share with everyone.
Share something. And, there's we talked about this earlier. There's a lot of things that you can make that are very family friendly. So we make our keto cacao mousse.
So good.
People love it, right? And there's no seed oils.
Does not taste keto.
Does not taste keto. People love it. Kids to adults.
Because you're using allulose and stevia as your sweeteners.
Yeah. And then we use a really beautiful organic cacao. We finish it with a sea salt. So, there are things that you could make that aren't going to feel healthy and aren't going to present themselves as healthy, but you're going to be able to eat them and be really satisfied. And I think that's also, what we try to do, but it's very easy to make food that's really approachable, that are your fan favorites, and sub out the things that are not going to serve you in your body and your nutrition. So you can still make a burger, get your beautiful grass-fed beef, pick a beautiful cheese, find a bun that is made with butter, or forego the bun entirely and use a lettuce wrap.
And I think now, just at restaurants, because of all the gluten-free phase or craze over the last several years now, I don't think it's uncommon, or people shouldn't feel weird for asking for certain things, because it's kind of ingrained now. You go to a restaurant, they've got gluten-free options, and now even more and more are expecting, and a lot of restaurants truly are trying to move to, and they're transparent about it. I mean, I was at a French restaurant just a couple of weeks ago, and they had steak frites, and I'm like, just straight up, are your fries cooked in duck fat? And he said, no, they're not, unfortunately. And I was like, thanks for your transparency. No big deal. I'm going to get something different, right? And so just asking questions, and I don't think there's no reason to feel weird about it anymore, because you can't sacrifice your health and your goals. And the goal really for all of this, what we're talking about, is not only to feel better, maybe even to look better, but really to decrease inflammation and disease is really the end goal, right? And to live longer, healthier, stronger, that kind of thing. And so don't be, I guess what I'm trying to say is, people shouldn't feel shame around that, and, or if you're the one in your family that, she's I get called bougie a lot in my family, but, my husband used to say, because I've always been a cook, and I'm kind of a particular cook, and I wasn't using seed oils before that was cool, not because I thought I was smarter than anybody. I just didn't think they tasted as good as butter and olive oil and even tallow. I only just started using tallow the last few years when it became kind of more trendy. You couldn't really find tallow before, and I'm not as creative as you to figure out how to make it. But he used to make this statement, I don't live to eat. I eat to live, because I would spend so much time. He would tease me that I would, stop the timing of dinner to go to the store and get something specific to enhance the experience. But I think that mindset is shifting. It's like, it's just food. Well, now what we're realizing, and this is what's been so exciting about being a part of even HHS and this MAHA movement, is seeing that conversation of bringing it back down to the basics of food is just so refreshing to me, and I'm hoping that it sticks. The other thing that they're talking about a lot in DC, which is music to my ears, is addressing food deserts, because I always think about people that live in areas where there's not really good access to whole foods. What do they do? So this is becoming a global conversation. I've had conversations with other organizations that are very committed to like Produce Moms, where educating people about produce and whole foods and where to get it and how to get it and how to access it. There's great initiatives going on in the farming industry about what do we do with ugly foods, the ones that aren't pretty enough to sit on the grocery store shelf. And rather than throwing them away, they're now distributing them. So it's becoming a conversation. So I think the time is right for, what we have been super passionate about. And even Hippocrates said it thousands of years ago, let thy food be thy medicine, and that really is what it's about.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think we're in the very early stages of a food awakening. Yeah. And, slowly more and more people are going to experience this and dip their toe into it. And what's fascinating is that when you go down that path and you start to feel better, yes, you're going to look better ultimately, but you're going to sleep better. You have more energy. Your mitochondria are firing. And that is, the beginnings of you functioning better in life. Right. So you're in a better mood. You're probably more productive in whatever you do. Alert. And for work, you're going to move better. You're going to have more, desire to go out and do things. And, so your vitality increases, that's the wealth. Yeah. So your real wealth is the function of your body, and the way that you feed your body is so critical to that. Yeah. So like if you ignore all of that, and let's say you do make, whatever fortune that you make, but you don't feel good, you now have chronic disease.
Then that's what happens.
Right. And so what have you gained? Yeah. Right.
A lot of money that's going to be gone. All your material wealth is gone when you die. Or
you're spending all your material wealth trying to be well.
Yeah. Right. I was just going to tell you, I have a story about a patient that decided, after many years of trying everything and fad diets and even jumping on the GLP-1s and then losing a bunch of weight and gaining it back because, nobody incorporated lifestyle changes with her. It wasn't our office, or we would have lifestyle changes with her so she could keep the weight off. She just made massive changes in what she ate. Now, she was a little more rigid about it, but she started with what we're talking about. She got rigid about it when she started feeling better. Yeah. When you start feeling better, you want to chase that.
Yeah.
But she also had, she was one of those that took like 30 supplements every day. Well, why a lot of people are taking supplements? Because they're trying to feel better.
Yeah.
And what she figured out, she started with stopping the processed foods. Now, when you stop processed foods, when you stop opening a package, you've covered a multitude of, sins, if you will, from the food perspective. The chemicals are gone, the seed oils are gone. You've got whole food options, and the satiety is there. Like, because if you eat a processed food, it may fill you up for 15 minutes, but then you're extra hungry, 30 minutes later. So she just started there, and she started with doing exactly what we're meal prepping. I'm going to eat whole foods when I eat out. I'm going to make different choices, etc. And then the next time I saw her, and I hadn't refilled her GLP-1 in many years. The next time I saw her, many months, she looked like a completely different person.
Amazing.
She had lost some weight. She hadn't lost a ton of weight, but she had lost a good, 15 to 20 pounds. But the glow, the energy, the vitality showed up in her energy. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, all right, what's your supplement regimen now? Because I'm so used to this. And she goes, I'm not taking any supplements.
Wow.
I'm only doing your hormones. I've just completely changed the way of it. I couldn't believe the vitality, the glow, and she had just tossed out all the things that she was chasing to try to help herself feel better. And I think that's what's possible for a lot of people.
Oh.
And I love how you started with just start with one thing. Just if you can just eliminate packaged processed foods for a week, you're going to notice the difference.
Yeah.
And then for me, myself, if I go and eat something like that because I'm ravenous because I didn't pack, some nuts in my bag or something, boy, do I feel it for a couple of days, because the more you're away from that stuff and you detox, you already said it, when you do expose yourself, you're not going to die, but it's kind of doesn't feel real good.
It doesn't feel good. And then you realize kind of what it cost you to have that thing. Yeah. And then you're more committed to going back to what really feeds your body and what is going to serve your body on a long-term scale. And then that becomes really addictive. And the other thing I would say, so processed foods, eliminate, skip the seed oils, look for whole foods, and then sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, as ubiquitous as seed oils are, sugar is as much or more so. Mm-hmm. So for me, I really drop down sugar to a very low level. For me, it's super inflammatory. We know how corrosive it is to the body, and it's super addictive.
Yes.
That's one that is hard to detox.
It's the hardest one to get off of.
But then once you're off of it, you really see incredible gains. And then there's so many interesting other sweeteners. Like, I constantly will make my own electrolytes, and I'm drinking that at the restaurant. I carry it in my car. I'm not having to buy processed or packaged electrolytes.
Which is a lot of sugar usually.
Which is a lot of sugar. But I'm using instead allulose, or I'll use a little bit of Truvia. I also use a little bit of glycine, which is great amino acid, but it has a little bit of a sugar taste
Sweet
to it. So you can start playing with, okay, let me substitute honey. Let me use blackstrap molasses, things that actually have nutritional content to them.
Right.
And that have probably a lower glycemic. Honey is basically medicinal if you are using it in a raw state, and you're using local honey.
Yeah.
So you can, again, baby step of just wow, how much sugar am I really consuming? I think a can of Coke has something like
32 teaspoons.
Yeah. It's incredible.
32 teaspoons. Incredible. And it fires the same areas of your brain as cocaine does, and that's why it's so addictive. So one of the things that I really try to coach people on when they are going to start, even if they start eliminating just sugar out of their diet, which is the hardest thing to do, is, let them know that don't shame yourself. Don't beat up on yourself. Do your best every day. We talked a little bit about this before the show. Just get back on the horse, because it lights up that area of your brain, that dopamine center in your brain that is highly addictive. And so you got to break that. Yeah. And that's going to take a while. Yeah. And that leads me into kind of the next thing that I wanted to talk about is this whole concept of, how many, they say 21 days to habit. And I think with New Year's resolutions, when people are making, it starts to get too hard after 1 or 2 weeks, Yeah. But if they can just push it and get to that 21 to 30 days, And then I think that is where the sweet spot is, with making those changes.
Yeah, hold on, but also again, don't start off so aggressive that you've conditioned yourself to fail.
Yeah.
And then also be super loving and forgiving with your body.
Yeah.
And your own mindset of like, okay, I'm a human, I'm normal. I had this thing, that wasn't on my regimen. I just start back the next day or the next hour, and also track how you feel. Because for me, with all like your patient, I've done every imaginable nutritional strategy on the planet until I finally got to where I am now. And it's really more metabolically driven. And then the changes that you see, and again, it took about a year, but were astronomical, where I didn't even feel like the same person anymore, and where I could never go back again. So the reward cycle starts in your brain of like, wow, this is better. I look better. I feel better. I have 10 times more energy.
Sleeping better.
You sleep better. You don't, let's say you had joint issues, like I'm using my hands a lot, so sometimes I would wake up and be like, oh, this joint bothers me, or I'm pretty active, like my knee might bother me. When I transitioned into what I'm doing now, I never have any joint pain. My energy is really high, very high, and I'm moving 7 days a week. Sometimes they're 15, 16-hour days. And so all of that starts to change. And then that becomes really addictive. Like, sure, I would give up a whole host of things before I would give up what I do now. And also, once you get into a rhythm, it's really simple. You're eating whole foods. I'm making my eggs. I have some beautiful feta. I have this, I have that. I have a little steak. I'm not as hungry. You're not, you drop out of that constantly craving cycle.
Well, and that also that dogma that we're supposed to have 3 meals a day. You have a boiled egg in the morning, and it's just like you don't have to. Oh, it's lunchtime. Oh, it's dinner time. Is that habit, or is it because I'm really hungry? And if I'm eating whole foods that are satiating, then I don't have to eat, and snacking in between, right?
No.
Because the other thing too that metabolically that's happening when people, and this is the whole, it drives me crazy when people are like, I'm a snacker, I have to eat every 2 hours. That is not how our bodies were designed.
No.
And you are wrecking your metabolism with this every 2 hour feed. You have to give your stomach time to empty. You have to give everything time to process. You should have a minimum of 4 hours between eating.
Oh, yeah.
Minimum, preferably 6. And then everybody's kind of all into this intermittent fasting thing, which I have a lot I could say about that. But it's okay to do that every now and then. But it's again, everybody thinks if it's something good, we got to just go all out and do it all the time. But there's a lot of evidence coming up now that intermittent fasting regularly, like every day fasting, is probably not as good for you as cycling that. So, top things that I just want to recap with you for all those people that have made a New Year's resolution to eat better, change the way they eat, whatever the goals for that is. It could be to lose weight. It could be just to feel better, sleep better. No matter what, it's time. The top 3 tips that we can give them to take away.
So whole foods. Skip the seed oils. So get into like good fats. I would say remove as much processed food as you possibly can. And then I would also add to that, drop your sugar. Like really start to be, and part of that is just being conscious. So much of what we eat and we do is subconscious. Where we're just hand to mouth doing what we normally do. So when you really start to break it down, and also recording what you do. So when I first started in this process that I'm in now, I went on Carb Manager because I really watch my carbs and my sugar, and recording what I was actually eating and then looking at the nutritional breakdown of all those things. It's pretty amazing. I mean, do you know that like 5 shrimp is 55 calories compared to like a burger can be 250, 300 calories. And I'm not a calorie watcher.
I'm not a calorie counter.
But when you really start to like put everything in and be like, okay, this is how many fats, how much sugar, how much carbs, and what were my proteins? Like, what are my macros? Because I also want to hit my protein, and that can be challenging. And so you start to really learn like how much protein is in salmon, how much protein is in lean steak, what is in an egg. Eggs are so great for you. They're so great for your brain. You get great protein. You're getting good fat. You get choline. So really, this is maybe like the next level up, but really digesting intellectually what it is that you're consuming. So that's super helpful.
It's education, it's information. And I think, you know, and I think it doesn't have to be, you know, I think once people start feeling better, they want to get into some of that and like maybe wear a Whoop and look at their, you know, biological age, or maybe get all these wearables and track that. I mean, you can go crazy with it, right? And so don't feel like anybody, you know, you have to go do all that, but you can. Yeah. It's amazing. And the one last thing I want to just kind of touch on is there are some pretty good packaged things out there that I'm loving right now. Yeah. You have it next to you?
I do. Let's see.
Somebody's really craving some chips.
Yes.
Really craving there are some good options.
Yeah. And like, you know, we want what we want. We want salty. We want crispy. So there are things that we source that
tallow chips are amazing.
Category. So these are
tallow chips.
They're like kettle cooked potato tallow chips that are made from a family in California, and they are insane. And what's interesting about them, and these are also tallow, but these are tortilla chips, is that
these are amazing,
incredible.
And there's more and more companies that are doing this, and there's more and more companies that I'm seeing are making potato chips and tortilla chips with like avocado oil, but read the label, because sometimes the label will say avocado oil and it's actually a blended with a seed oil.
Yeah.
And one of the things I learned when I was in DC is they are really cracking down with transparency on food labels.
Great.
Right. And so there's a lot that's changing, a lot that's coming. What else you got in there before we go? Anything else good?
This is a dried tomato.
Interesting.
Chip. So they dehydrate really beautiful tomatoes. They're so satisfying. Again, no seed oils. And then the other thing, I think that's all I got in there. The other thing I was going to say is that when you have these snacks, you know, when you open like a bag of Lay's, or let's say, you know, go to McDonald's or whatever, you just want to eat and you eat and eat because it's firing all these things in your brain, right?
The chemicals are creating addictive habits.
Addictive habits.
100%.
When you try these that are cooked with tallow or with olive oil, you are satisfied after a
handful.
A handful. You're like, that was delicious and great, but the brain has kicked in, we ate something nourishing, we know what it is, and the cravings kind of stop and you put it away, which to me is really fascinating because I had never really experienced that.
I would agree with that 100%. We get those Vandy chips, and I think, golly, these things are so expensive, but they last forever because you're not sitting there eating a whole bag in one sitting. You're literally satisfied with you know, just a little bit. So
yeah. And the other thing I was going to say is that there are a lot of things, you know, we want salty, we want crunchy, you want that sort of mouthfeel from a French fry. And there's a lot you can do at your house that will provide those sort of snacks for you that can be made in a very healthy way. So you can make like sweet potato chips, sweet potato fries. You can fry them in your own beef tallow, or you could put them in a convection oven and, you know, brush them with olive oil. You can make a lot of like savory, you can make a savory pancake that's basically made with egg and cottage cheese. Doesn't sound good, but it tastes incredible.
They taste really good.
They taste really good.
You make those at the restaurant.
Yeah. So so don't feel like you have to completely give up your favorite thing.
Yeah, that's right.
You just have to pivot.
Well, the chocolate chip and peanut butter cookies you brought today were amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, there's ways to do it. Well, I really appreciate your insights, and I love that you've even given us permission to keep our crunchy hedonistic habits on some level, just everything in moderation. But thanks for your time, and thanks for the amazing food you prepare for people. And people can find you if they're local, through the link in the show description, and find your restaurant and learn all about you. And appreciate your time.
Oh my God, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dr. Terri Show. You know, it is truly my heart's desire to help people to bring awareness to key issues affecting our health, both mentally, spiritually, physically, financially. So if today's episode was helpful to you, would you please share this podcast with others? This information is vital for helping our country heal and restore our health, and we would be honored if you would pass it along to your friends and family. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any content from the show, and if your life has been improved by the show, please leave us a review below. We would love to hear from you. See you next time.